place for quick summaries of movies with jaw-dropping twists. Let's dive in. The story begins with explorers searching in the ice, and they find something strange, a ship from World War II. They contact the authorities, who arrive and begin to open it. They enter inside and find Captain America's shield. Then we go back to 1942 in Norway. We see a man running into a temple, meeting his guards and telling them they've arrived. Then soldiers storm the temple, led by their commander named Shams. They are searching for the Tesseract, a cube of energy. When the temple guard refuses to reveal its location, Shams searches the area and finds a button. When he presses it, the Tesseract appears. The guard warns him that this power cannot be controlled and could destroy him. Shams kills the guard, takes the cube, and leaves. Next, we see Steve Rogers attempting to enlist in the army. However, due to his frail and thin body, he is rejected. It turns out to be a hereditary condition he inherited from his mother. Steve keeps applying with different papers, but is always rejected. He dreams of joining the army to fight the Nazis and becoming a leader on the front lines. He also spends time watching propaganda films about the military in cinemas. One day, a man in the audience insults the army, and Steve tells him to stop. The man waits for him outside and starts beating him up. Steve, unable to defend himself, bravely says, "I can do this all day." His friend Bucky arrives, fights off the man, and helps Steve. Bucky tells Steve he has joined the army and will leave for training camp that night. Before leaving, he invites Steve to a fair. At the fair that evening, they see Howard Stark, a genius scientist, demonstrating his latest invention, a flying car. However, the car malfunctions and falls back to the ground, and Stark assures the crowd he's still working on it. Steve notices a recruitment booth for Army volunteers. He stands in front of a uniform looking small in comparison and tells Bucky he won't give up on enlisting. Steve speaks passionately about his dreams of leading the army in battle. Dr. Abraham Erskine overhears him and is impressed by Steve's determination. Bucky says goodbye and leaves. Steve goes to enlist again, and Dr. Erskine approaches him, asking why he has applied 5 times with different papers. "Do you want to kill Nazis?" he asks. Steve replies, "I don't want to kill anyone. I just want to be something." Dr. Erskine tells him about a special project, and Steve agrees to join without even knowing the details. He is accepted into the army and is overjoyed. Meanwhile, at Hydra's headquarters, we see Dr. Arnim Zola working with Shams. Using the Tesseract, they develop extremely powerful weapons fueled by its energy. Steve arrives at training camp with other soldiers. Agent Carter oversees the training and quickly puts one soldier in his place when he tries to act smart. Colonel Phillips informs the recruits that they will undergo numerous tests, and only one will be chosen for the Super Soldier Project. During the tests, Steve struggles and fails most of them. In one test, the soldiers are challenged to retrieve a flag from a tall pole. None succeed, but Steve cleverly pulls the pole down and retrieves the flag. Dr. Erskine arrives, and Colonel Phillips expresses doubts about Steve's suitability due to his physical weakness. To prove a point, Erskine throws a fake grenade at the recruits. Everyone runs away except Steve, who jumps on the grenade to shield others. Erskine tells Phillips, "I told you so." Later, Erskine tells Steve he has been chosen for the project. Steve asks why, and Erskine explains that Steve's inner goodness and lack of malice make him the ideal candidate. He also shares that the serum amplifies a person's inner traits. Evil becomes more evil, and good becomes great. Because Steve knows what it's like to be weak, he will value the strength he gains. The next day, Carter takes Steve to a secret military facility disguised as a shop. Inside, they meet Dr. Erskine, Howard Stark, and other military leaders. Steve is placed in a machine and injected with the serum. He screams in pain, but when they try to stop, he insists on continuing. After the process, Steve emerges taller, stronger, and transformed into the first super soldier. However, a Hydra spy infiltrates the facility, kills Dr. Erskine, and steals the last serum. Steve chases the spy through the city, eventually catching him as he tries to escape in a submarine. The spy swallows poison and dies, destroying the serum. Meanwhile, Shams meets with German military leaders who ridicule his project. In response, he demonstrates the Tesseract-powered weapons and kills them all. His ultimate goal is world domination. Back at the base, Steve's blood is taken for research, as it contains the only remaining traces of the serum. Colonel Phillips wants to keep Steve confined, but another officer proposes using him for propaganda to boost morale and attract recruits. Steve becomes Captain America, performing in shows and films. One day, soldiers mock him, and Steve feels disheartened. Agent Carter encourages him, reminding him of his potential. News arrives that the 107th Infantry Division, including Bucky, suffered heavy losses in a battle with Hydra. Steve asks Colonel Phillips for permission to rescue them, but Phillips refuses. Determined, Steve goes alone with Carter and Stark's help, parachuting into Hydra's base. He fights Hydra soldiers, discovers their advanced weapons, and frees the captured soldiers. When he asks about Bucky, he is told Bucky is being held in another section of the base. Steve goes to find him. So he tells him, "I left you thin," and he sees a map with all of Hydra's locations. Afterward, he takes him and tries to escape. When he sees Shams, he destroys the entire place and tells him they can't defeat him. Then the freed prisoners start fighting Hydra's men, finish them off, and Shams goes to Captain America, telling him, "We're not like ordinary people. We're destined for a greater place." Steve punches him and then reveals his true form. He then takes the Tesseract and escapes. The place collapses, time passes, and Phillips believes Steve is dead, but he reappears with all the soldiers who were prisoners, impressing Phillips greatly. From that moment on, Steve decides to become a real leader and stop doing shows. He then informs them of Hydra's locations and says he'll choose his own team. He actually goes and selects his team. Later, he visits Howard Stark to have a suit made for him. The secretary takes a liking to him, and when Carter sees them, she becomes very upset. Stark gives him a shield made of vibranium, the strongest metal on Earth. Steve and his team begin targeting all of Hydra's locations, destroying them, and Steve becomes a hero. Documentaries are made about him, and he starts engaging in numerous battles, winning them all. One day, they go on a mission to stop a train carrying weapons, Shams, and Dr. Zola. Steve and the team board the train and start fighting the soldiers, defeating them, but someone in a suit appears and starts shooting at them. Bucky is about to fall off the train. Steve tries to save him, but he falls, leaving Steve devastated as he watches his friend die before his eyes. They capture Zola, and later Phillips tries to strike a deal with him. Zola reveals that the news has spread that Steve collaborated with them and that Shams is now looking for him to kill him. Zola cooperates with them, revealing everything they want to know. Steve is deeply saddened by Bucky's death, and Carter tries to console him, telling him that Bucky died with honor and was proud of him. Steve vows to destroy Shams. He begins devising a plan to infiltrate Shams' base, rides his motorcycle, and heads there alone. He fights all of Shams' men, taking them down one by one. However, a whole battalion confronts him, captures him, and takes him to Shams. Just as Shams is about to finish him off, Captain America's team appears, killing Shams' men. Shams escapes, and the chase continues. Another soldier in a suit appears and starts shooting at Steve, but Carter arrives just in time to help him. The chase continues, with Shams boarding his plane to escape. Phillips and Carter arrive in a car, pick up Steve, and chase the plane. Steve manages to jump onto the plane, enters it, and begins fighting Shams' men, defeating them all. The plane is loaded with high-energy weapons headed for New York to destroy it. Steve confronts Shams, and during their fight, the weapon containing the Tesseract is destroyed. Shams grabs it, and it destroys him. Steve contacts Carter, telling her there's no time and that if the plane reaches New York, it will cause massive destruction. He decides to crash the plane into the ocean, sacrificing himself. He tells Carter he wished he could have danced with her and promises to meet her next week at a restaurant if he survives. He tells her he doesn't know how to dance, and she replies, "Just be there, and I'll teach you." Steve crashes into the ocean, and Carter is deeply shaken by his loss.